All right, so thank you so much for being here today at our Clicker Learning event. We have our QR code and a tiny URL that's going to take you to our home-based document. That's going to be linked in the chat here. You'll have lists of all of our resources for today, and then we'll also keep an ongoing questions from the chat list. So anything that for some reason we don't answer today, we'll make sure we answer it in our home-based document. And for those of you that are watching the recorded version, you can always go back and find our answers in there if you missed them from our chat as well. So thank you guys all so much for being here. So today with us, our whole crew here, we have the wonderful Carolyn Knowles with us today from Crick Software, who's going to take us through Clicker and all of its fun, exciting features. We have my name's Emily Desjardins, and with me are the other two content leads from Open Access, Miss Jennifer Wright and Miss Mimi Zimlick. And then we have the wonderful Deb Rondeau, who is an AT specialist from Antelope, Sulpa Valley, and one of our AT content lead specialists. So we're so excited, or one of our AT content leads. I feel like I'm saying that wrong. Regional leads is what I was trying to say. Thank you for being here, Deb. And also Carolyn. So most of you probably know a little bit about open access, but for those of you who have not heard of us or found us by way of something else from something else other than one of our previous trainings or webinars, we are one of the special education resource leads within the California statewide system of support. We are funded by the California Department of Education and also CCEE, which is the California Collaborative for Educational Excellence. We are really grounded under the foundational belief that all children can really thrive in inclusive settings when they have access to universal design for learning, assistive technology, and augmentative and alternative communication. So we provide professional development and coaching in the areas of UDL, AT, and AAC. We have lots of resources on our open access website. Feel free to explore. And then our one pager has a little more information about the supports we provide to school districts and some of our other resources. So feel free to dive into those. We absolutely have an open access promise to accessibility. We really try to model the UDL principles that we preach so much. You'll find in all of our presentations, we try to have simple background with high contrast text. We make sure that you really have access to digital and print materials when we are in person with you. And then we also try to make sure we have alt images for texts, alt text for images, and we always have our tiny URLs and our QR codes. We really do our best to try to make this as collaborative and hands-on and provide as many opportunities for discussion, collaboration, and then provide those multiple examples and non-examples. So we have some resources for you today. We have our open access website and then also the Crick software website, which is going to take you, Carolyn will be referencing this as well. Both of these are located on the home-based document and then also linked in the slides here as well. And then, as with all of our open access offerings, we really like to start with an inclusive welcome. This is not something that we have created ourselves, but is instead part of something, the CASEL the CASEL signature playbook. And CASEL is the Collaborative for Social Emotional Learning. Today's inclusive welcome is also kind of a hot tip, fun trick for you as well. So as you can see, there's a nice little image here, the farmer's market, pick what you feel today. So in the chat, you can kind of introduce yourself, your name, your role, and then maybe think about how you're showing up today. Are you feeling like an ambitious apple? Are you feeling like an appreciative aprium? Maybe a prospective pomegranate? And the added challenge for you is if one of these isn't speaking to you, you can create your own alliterative fruit or vegetable name if you'd like. Maybe you're feeling like an elated eggplant or an annoyed asparagus or whatever brings you deep joy or connection. That's your added challenge. And then the fun tip or trick that we are going to share with you is this daily morning meeting slide is now available on Ed Tomorrow. So Ed Tomorrow is a fantastic resource. I believe Mimi's going to put it in the chat for us. But this resource, this Ed Tomorrow website, if you sign up for this, you can receive a slide deck ready to roll every single morning to have morning meetings in your classroom. There are 3 different actually it might be 4 different age groups you can sign up for, and every morning you'll have a full slide deck in your email inbox with a quick morning meeting for your class. And this is such a simple but powerful strategy to really start your day or your class period if you're in secondary education with just some classroom community opportunities, some time to really build some sense of belonging for students. There's a meme of the day, there's sometimes a social emotional question, and it's something you can really do as much or as little as you're interested in. But it is all a nice little packaged free resource that is so fun and fantastic. So highly recommend. Ooh, Deb is feeling perspective pomegranate, looking at all different perspectives to better help staff and students. I love it. Thank you, Deb. I have to think about what I'm feeling like. I think I'm going to be an open-minded orange today and just keep my mind open to all kinds of new resources and strategies, and I'm excited. Oh, Kim too. Love it. Thanks, Kim. All right. Well, people want to keep these lovely farmers market alliterations coming. I am here for it in the chat. I will respond via that. But I am also going to hand this over to the wonderful Carolyn Knowles. Thank you so much for being here today. And wait, before I stop that introduction, I got a curious cucumber in the chat. I'm so excited about that. Thank you, Maria. Curious cucumber. Okay, sorry, back to Carolyn. Carolyn, thank you so much for being here. She's going to share us all of the fun clicker tips, tricks, and tools, and we're excited to have her here. Thanks, Carolyn.
Thank you, Emily. I am going to go ahead and share my screen to Clicker now so that you guys can see the program. So I just wanted to start with a little bit about me and a little bit about Crick. I'm Carolyn, of course, and at Crick Software, we are all about creating literacy software for students of all abilities. So we have a really strong focus on and belief in accessibility and inclusion. It's being at the heart of all of our products. And we really believe that all children can be writers. We want to help learners everywhere experience writing success and have opportunities for expression. So we're going to be looking at all of that today in our session. I have our agenda here. I promise I'm going to talk you through all of this. I just wanted to give you a little overview of generally what we're going to be talking about today, what Clicker is, learning grids as a perfect place to kind of get started, some of our activities, our books, our talking activities, our writing grids, the support and accessibility options in Clicker. I have boards, our Clicker boards at the end, because I have a bunch of different ideas for these, so I stuck them at the end. Some of the ways that Clicker can help with collecting and analyzing data, and then impact just some statements about people that have been using Clicker. So first, I wanted to start with what Clicker is. And Clicker is essentially a supportive word processor. So it's been intentionally designed, like I said, with UDL in mind, and really with the goal of providing a tailored learning experience and opportunities for expression and participation for learners, no matter the needs that they have. And Clicker is fully customizable, as you're going to see today, from the basics like display settings and speech support to scaffolded writing support. And it also includes activities, resource activities to support the writing process, but also some tools for teachers and educators in the planning stage of things as well. Now, as you can see, Clicker is available for Windows Mac computers, and then our apps are compatible with the iPads and Chromebooks. Today, we're going to be looking at our Windows Mac software. We're going to be looking at the apps next week in our session on the 16th, so make sure to come back for that. And I wanted to mention here at the top at the beginning that Clicker and the Clicker apps are subscription-based programs, but there are trials available which include personalized support and trials and include all the things that you're going to see today, all the activities that we're going to look at. So we're first going to go ahead and start in learning grids. And I wanted to start here because I really feel that this is the perfect place to explore Clicker, explore what it has to offer, the resources, and start the planning process in terms of selecting activities, what types of resources are going to work best for kiddos that you have in mind. And Learning Grids is essentially a bank of elementary focused resources available to all Clicker users. So trials, subscriptions, everyone has access to this bank. And it provides a wide range of activities that are pre-made and uploaded into Clicker, which we call them Clicker sets, that are uploaded continuously, like I said, by our curriculum team. So you'll see different resources if you check it at different times. Learning Grids is accessible right up here. I'm just going to make this screen a little bit bigger. And this is a bank of activities embedded in Clicker that you can pull from and download. So the resources in Clicker, in Learning Grids include reading, writing, planning, speaking, and listening activities. We really aim to provide a wide variety of activities to help with selecting what's going to work best depending on what you're working on. And there's a couple of different ways we can move in Learning Grids. We can ask it to show us specific activities. So if we only want to see books, or if we want to see sentence sets, I'm going to go through all this in a second. I'm just showing you. We can ask it to filter and just show us specific activities to help with making that searching process a little easier. We can also view specific topics. So if you're working on something in English language arts or in social studies, you can see the different sort of units that are available within the topics themselves. And then you can also search as well. So if you were doing something on plants or seasons or weather, whatever you might be working on, whatever you search that keyword as, it'll just pull up any activities that correspond with that unit. So if I go to science and solar system, for example, we'll see a bunch of activities in here having to do with solar system tagged with that unit. And the activities in Learning Grids are uploaded as a unit. So the activities are generally going to center on a particular topic, and there'll be a range of types within that unit that you're looking at. So it'll tell us on the side how many of each there are, but it'll also tell us over here if we're looking at a sentence set or a book, so we can actually take a look at the activities. And more will just give you a bigger picture, a little bit bigger image of the activity and a little description. And any of these that you want to download, you just click open to download. I'm not going to do that because I have a bunch open down here, but that's how you would open them. And all of the activities here are, of course, available for download, so you can use them and just use them as is, but they're all designed to be modified based on the students that you're working with. So if we need different color combinations, more pictures, whatever the case may be, we can always make those changes and then share them out to students to access for their writing. Now, we're going to cover all of these, like I said, today in our session, and I wanted to kind of provide a topic outline, an idea of what I had in mind when I was putting this together. Learning Grids is, of course, going to be at the core of what we're looking at. So everything we see today will have come from Learning Grids. And I am thinking about starting with a book to introduce a new topic. So introducing what we're working on, talk sets as a way to verbalize new vocabulary, talking after doing our reading, writing, of course, at a topic that's appropriate for each student, and the different grids we're going to talk about. And then again, I have boards at the end as a way to demonstrate knowledge. But again, I have some other ideas as well. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to start in our Clicker books. Now, books are on-screen reading and writing books, digital books that have built-in speech support, speech to text support, I should say, and picture support as well. These are Switch accessible, and I find a really nice way to introduce a topic or introduce a new sort of lesson or unit in class. So I have the screenshots of the particular activities in Learning Grids under Jack and the Beanstalk. That was the topic selected for today, but I have them open down here as well. So we're going to start in our read a book. And again, in Clicker, there's a slew of these activities within Jack and the Beanstalk for you to pick from. These are the books that were included. A read a book that's always going to have arrows for us to navigate through. And a read a book will generally always look something like this. There'll be pictures, maybe more, maybe multiple pictures, and then sentences. Now, the amount of sentences will vary depending on the topic that you're reading about. And these are speech supported through our little speak text icon down here. I'm not going to have it read the whole page, but it will if you let it.
Once upon a time, there was a boy called Jack.
And it will highlight also as it's reading aloud. So we're getting the spoken along with following along with the highlighting as well. And again, the arrows let us move through our book. So we're reading about Jack and the Beanstalk. But another one of the books included is a read it yourself book. And again, pictures are the same, topic is the same. But the difference here is that there's generally fewer text on a page in a read it yourself. We're trying to encourage more independent reading. And there isn't a speak text icon included in these automatically, but we can add one by going up here and inputting our speak text icon. We can make it bigger, as you saw. We can change the color if we want to make it a little more obvious on the screen. And now it will read aloud when we click it.
There was a boy called Jack.
So we can, again, always customize Clicker depending on what students may need, because we recognize that a read it yourself, a student using that may also need spoken text as well. So we're, again, starting with a book to launch our unit. And I tend to find this is the way Clicker is used a lot, starting with reading a book if we're introducing something new. And after reading, we may choose to talk about what it is that we've read about. Now, the talk sets in Clicker are a bit different from our other activities because these focus on speaking and listening skills as opposed to reading or writing, like the books or the grids we're going to look at in just a second. And again, I've seen these used in a couple of different ways as a way to introduce a topic or reinforce key vocabulary, even as a way to possibly like retell a story after reading. I've seen that used a lot. And these I find make a really great like follow-up activity to a book or to reading about something that we're doing in class. And again, I have both of the ones included in the Jack and the Beanstalk unit and learning grids here. I am going to start with our listen and say activity, this one here. And again, we're sticking with Jack and the Beanstalk, right? So we have key vocabulary from the story and then pictures from that book. So you can see this was the actual cow that was in our book story. And this first page is kind of like a practice. So if we click on any of the words, it'll read aloud for us.
Beans.
And it'll, of course, still highlight. And when we use the arrow, that's kind of our starting the activity. It will show us one word and one picture that, again, we can always click to hear and practice.
10.
But it'll also have a microphone icon down here, which is a sound recorder. And this will hold whatever spoken word, whatever spoken content is recorded into Clicker. Hen. And then it'll turn into a speech bubble there. So we know that there's some sort of recording associated with that. And we can keep going through our activity. It'll just take us all the way through. But if we pop back out to home, we can see that recordings appeared on the front also. So it'll store all of the recordings at the front so you don't have to go through all of them. Really great, again, for reinforcing key vocabulary from a story or whatever you may be working on. But another one, and I personally love these, is a tell the story activity. These I really like. They are really great for students retelling a story in their own words, or maybe sequencing if we're not doing a story and we're doing a science experiment or something like that. We have pictures from the book, again, exactly from the Clicker book that we were looking at before. And so here, the student would be clicking on a picture and using the sound recorder to talk about what's happening in each picture, retelling each part of the story as they go. So the process is exactly the same as before. An old man gave Jack some magic beans. It'll store as a little recording for us, but it'll also show us at the front. And what's nice about the Tell the Stories is that as students record all the way through, this like master button here will splice them together into chronological order. So if they're recording out of order, if we know the third picture or the ninth picture or something, this front page will record all of them in correct order. Really great for retelling. And I find the Tell the Story ones are really popular, especially when we are reinforcing what we've read before we move on to writing. And of course, now that we've done that, we can move on to writing. And the topics in learning grids, as we saw before, are going to have a range of activities, and they're all going to have these core writing grids. There's 3 types that we're going to look at today. And again, all of these can be downloaded right from Learning Grids. And the ones that you're going to see, I downloaded no changes directly from Learning Grids. We're going to make some changes together. And the first one is our sentence set. Now, these are the grid we offer with the most support, and they're always going to look something like this. They're going to be single sentence outcome and have all the words provided on screen. That is this guy down here. Now, the student's responsibility in this case would be to click or tap to send words up into the document. Sorry, I had to let my mouse catch up with my mouth there.
There was a boy called Jack.
And we can, of course, put our picture in too. Now, we do have this green little tab here, and that lets us know we have a model attached to this sentence. And in this case, we have a model that we can see and hear.
There was a boy called Jack.
But I can't actually do any writing here. I have to close it to do my writing. And that may not be appropriate. That may not be the type of support we're looking for. It may be, but it might not be. And if it isn't, we can always change anything in Clicker, but sentence sets in particular are very adaptable. And we can go to edit mode to do that. And so from here, we have a slew of options. I'm going to walk you through it. At the top, we have the actual sentence content. So if you want to shorten a sentence or change specific wording, if we didn't want called, maybe we want named or something like that. Whatever changes you make at the top, you'll see appear in the grid in real time, which is kind of nice for easy editing. And then the model sentence, this is where we can change that pop-up that we saw before. So we could view it, but we had to remember it. We might choose view and copy. I'll show you what this all looks like, don't worry. And then of course the order of the words. So right now they're random. That may not be appropriate. Maybe we want them sentence order or guided order, which again, I'll show you. Maximize cell height is nice for making the target areas themselves larger. So if you want to actually expand the size of the cell, you can do so. And we have this slider here to actually make the font larger. And if whatever size is going to work, you can just apply this to all grids. You'll see it'll make all of the text match. It will look slightly different depending on the length of the word. If it's a word like enormous, that is going to look a little smaller than a word like Jack, but it'll make the font all about the same size. And we can, of course, change the color if we need it to be a lot deeper or a lot more obvious. And even the individual cells here also, if we wanted our punctuation, for example, to be red, or if we wanted to add different pictures in here, more pictures in here, you're always able to do that. And once we decide what's going to work best, if it's this combination of settings, let's say, we can down here apply settings to all grids, and that's going to make all of our sentences on the side here match these settings. It's much faster than having to go through and do them automatically. The only thing you will have to change will be specific color coding. If you want your punctuation all red, for example, or something like that, that's the only thing. Otherwise, everything else will match. And once we're done, if we go to go up here, that's how we get out of edit mode. We've now created an errorless activity. This is an error-free writing activity. So we have a model that we can see in here the whole time. We can copy from.
An old man gave Jack some magic beans.
And I can still click to do my writing, but I can't put it in any way other than correct.
An old man gave Jack some magic beans.
Promise we won't have to hear that sentence again. But we've created an errorless activity. So again, I'm just trying to show the variety here. You might have some kiddos where random word order works just fine, or maybe they need a model where they're only listening to it, they're not actually seeing it. So you can kind of mix and match for the student, the specific student that you have in mind or group of students, but also as we're progressing, as we're making progress with Clicker. Like I said before, sentence sets are one of the most adaptable, activities that we have in terms of the writing grids. We have some others though. We have connect sets and word banks. Now connect sets are kind of like one up from the sentence sets we just looked at, right? And we're moving more towards independent writing, maybe not fully independent, but moving towards it. And the biggest difference with the sentence set we just saw and connect sets are that you have multiple sentence outcomes with connect sets. So we're trying to provide more choice, more ownership, and we also have words clustered together or into kind of phrases. So we're connecting different pieces of sentences to build a sentence rather than step by step like we were with the sentence sets before. And as you can see here from these, I will say the layout with connect sets can vary quite a lot. Your sentences are always going to look basically the same, but the layouts with connect sets vary wildly. So this one, for example, again, within that Jack and the Beanstalk topic on learning grids is one of our Can You Remember activities. And these will always have a question at the top prompting whatever it is that we're writing about.
Who did Jack meet on the way to the market?
If you didn't want to send it into the document, by the way, you can right click to here without putting that into writing if you wanted to.
Who did Jack meet on the way to the market?
And then we can use the cells underneath to build our sentence. If we need help or if we're not sure about what a word is or what a phrase is, we can always right click to hear that ahead of time.
A giant. An old man.
And then
Jack met an old man on the way to the market.
Thank you, Clicker. Because this cell has a punctuation mark in it, it read back automatically when I put it into the document. Normally, it'll wait until you punctuate, but this one has it pre-built in. Now, the other connect set that was in the Jack and the Beanstalk topic was this one. Again, already looks very different from the first grid that we're looking at here. This has a picture bank at the start, so pictures of the book that we were reading, and then different grids behind it for retelling the story. This is a retelling Connect set that has a picture bank at the front. So again, there's several different options for what a student might choose to write. We could write multiple sentences here. We could write one sentence, and the different grids behind it, behind all of these, are intended to help with either writing a couple of sentences or writing a paragraph, depending on the activity that you're looking at here. The sentence set also has multiple grids, like we saw before. I just wanted to show that. So again, the Connect set, trying to introduce more choice into the writing process, but also more of this kind of connecting phrases together to build a sentence. It's not quite as word by word. And then, of course, we have word banks. That's the last type of activity that we would offer. Now, these are, of course, geared more towards writers that are writing independently or more independently. And we have a classic alphabetical word bank, like we would expect to see within this Jack and the Beanstalk activity. There are lots and lots of these. But there are also some that are topic tabbed, like this one, where we have key vocabulary or the vocabulary that we're focusing on that's kind of clustered onto specific tabs. We have a nouns tab, we have a characters tab, there's a general story language tab. So we're still providing structure, but again, there's a little more independence here. And we also even have some picture word banks. Again, with this is basically the same key vocabulary as we had in the talk set with the same pictures. So a student might be using this to do their writing, or they may choose to use this and a different word bank at the same time. You can see I have all of these open. So you can layer activities also, different grids or word banks most often, depending on what particular students may require. And I hope you can see through the books, the talk sets, but also the writing grids especially, we aim to provide a range of activities. So not every activity is going to work for every student, of course, and some may need editing depending on what certain kiddos need, but our aim is to provide choice for educators and teachers because we know that you know your students best, and we want you to have something to go off of without having to create something totally from scratch, but also a little bit of a framework for if you do need to make a modification or provide scaffolding, you can do that. There's sort of a layout for it. Now, like I said at the beginning, Clicker is a word processor. And while we've seen a little bit of this at work in the document support tools, but I kind of just wanted to talk about these for a second because there's a lot going on in the document. And all of these that are here, the core sort of support tools in Clicker are located in the support ribbon of the document, which I'm going to flip back to right now. That's this section that we're going to be talking about. Now, as we've seen throughout this presentation, Clicker speaks. Clicker will speak whatever we put into it. The speak text icon up here will read whatever is on screen, whatever's there, it will read. Or if you have a certain section selected, it will just read that.
There was a boy called Jack.
And the drop down, thank you, Clicker. The drop down next to it will let you pick a different speech engine. There's even more than this that can be downloaded, different ages, different genders to fit whoever it is that you're working with or whoever's using Clicker. I'm using Ella, but there's a ton more that you can download. We also have word prediction right next door. That's this guy. And the word predictor in Clicker, it'll float like this along as I type. But if I have a grid open, excuse me, the keyboard open, it will float along top like so if you choose to be using the on-screen keyboard, and that's just this green icon here whenever you have a grid open. Now the predictor will have inward prediction. It will also have next word prediction, as you can see, and it's suggesting the right word for me because it has phonetic prediction as well, but I'm going to leave it wrong. It is trying to help me. And there's also speech support, of course, layered into the predictor. Almost anything in Clicker will read if you click on it or right click on it.
Scary. Still.
And then when we punctuate,
The gent was scary.
it'll of course read back to us. It'll typically read back standardly when we punctuate. Now we have the universal signal that something has been spelled incorrectly, the red squiggly underline. But we also heard that didn't quite sound right when it read back to us. And we can use the icon next door, this guy up top, to spell check our document. And it will open a table like this. Sorry, I'm trying to make it bigger. There we go. It will open up a table for us. And of course, this is still speech supported.
Giant ant.
We'd click to make our selection. And based on where it's highlighting, it'll put that correct word in, tell us that we're all done, or it will funnel on to the next word. And the next icon up here is this microphone icon. This is called the voice note recorder. And essentially, this is sort of like what we were doing in our talk set activities. This is the sound recorder built into Clicker, and this will store recordings of what we speak in. So it won't generate any text. It'll just store what we record. And I've seen this used two ways most often, either as students themselves talking about what they want to write or whatever topic it is that we're going to be writing about before we jump into writing. But I've also seen some teachers or educators use this to record directions, because you can sort of put prompts in and then students can listen to it as many times as they need. So the recording function is exactly the same as before. I'm just going to do a sample one. Please write 5 sentences about Jack and the Beanstalk. When we click done, it'll pin it onto the side over here, as you can see. And these will hold up to a minute of recording each. You can have up to a minute of recording if you have that much. And you can have up to 6 of them in a document, and they'll save right into the document. So it's like literally putting a push pin in, if you can envision that. And when we click on it, it'll just read back to us. Oh, I hate hearing my voice recorded back to me. Now, the more you add, I'm just going to do a nonsense one, but the more you add, they'll also change color as you add them in. So if you are recording directions, the first one will always be red if that's the signifier for students. They'll change as you add more in. Now, I am going to pop next door just for a second to this icon. This is for pictures. And this is specifically for adding pictures into writing, into the document. As you've seen, pictures that are in any of our grids, you can just stick right into writing also. But there's a newer feature in Clicker to picturize. Essentially what this will do is put pictures into a piece of writing after it's done. So if you want to add pictures afterwards, you can. It'll ask us where we want to pick pictures from, and it's searching from the Crick Picks 2 library, which comes in Clicker. This is like rolled into the program itself. And then we'll keep the pictures. And then it will go ahead and it will add a bunch in for us. And if you don't want them for whatever reason, you can undo it. It will leave any that you add from the grids, though. It separates those in its mind. So if you have pictures from any of the activities you've been working on, it'll leave those. And then I also just wanted to show the formatting icon, because this is where you can do your basic word processing changes for like making the font a certain size or setting up a specific font. If you need a color and font, or excuse me, a font and background color combination, you can set all of that here. And those are where the tools are located, right? But the options tab has more options for specifying those if you need to. Now that is right up here, so I don't even have to leave the grid to show it to you, but this is what this screenshot is, and all of these activities here, or excuse me, all of these settings are located up here. So if, for example, if I wanted Clicker to read every word and every sentence, I can ask it to do that. I could change the speech engine here if I wanted to, but I could also ask that it maybe read more slowly or read faster if I want it to. I could change the highlight appearance. If the text is red, if the background is red, highlighting in red isn't going to work, so I can change that. Everything is customizable. I won't go through absolutely all of these, but anything you can think of, you can change. How many words are shown in the predictor? If you want the picturized to pull from like a personal library of images, a student's things or classroom, you can set it to do so. And also in this options ribbon is the access tab here, the access menu. And I wanted to show this because this is where all of the settings for eye gaze, single and 2 switch, and also something called super keys, which I'll get to in a second, are stored. Now, when you click on any of these, it turns them on. Basically, it turns on whatever that access setting is, but it's kind of in pause now because it gives you this front page here to kind of adjust settings as needed. So in eye gaze, for example, we can change the dwell time. We can change the appearance of that dwell timer as it appears on screen. We could ask the clicker makes a sound when an item is activated or selected. And then single and 2 switch are basically exactly the same in terms of the setting options. The only difference is the speed of the scanner on the single switch, of course. but we can have it auditory scanning. We can change the sound that it makes when it is auditory scanning or when we make a selection. And then the appearance of that also, if we need it to appear larger or in a different color. Everything you've seen are sort of the standard settings, but you can always adjust any of these. I just have to go to none so it doesn't start scanning on me. And then super keys I wanted to show also. Now this is a different thing, but not everyone always knows this is in Clicker, and I like to show it just in case. I'm going to turn it on for the keyboard and I'll show you this. This essentially clusters the keyboard up and creates fewer targets. There's larger areas for selection. So if I turn this on and I go into our keyboard here, you'll see that it's been chunked up. So if I wanted to type but I select anywhere in this cluster, the whole cluster will blow up larger for me. So it's hopefully easier to make a selection from these than perhaps from the regular keyboard. And if we have the predictor on also, the predictor will change which words, or well, it's not because there's only so many things we can do with a T. If I open up different clusters, the predictor will change based on which cluster we're in. It wants to suggest different things based on those letters in the cluster. Super keys, really cool feature that isn't always obvious. It's kind of almost hidden in the access menu, but I wanted to show that especially if you're looking for something to reduce the number of targets, super keys can be a really great option for that. Okay, no special access, thank you. And I just wanted to put the location of this in here so that you can see where it is. It's in the actual options menu, but it's under access. And now if you bear with me, we're going to bounce back to the clicker board. Now, like I said at the beginning, I had lots and lots of ideas for ways that we can use the board. Essentially, these are graphic organizers. So there's tons and tons of things that you can do with these. Anything you can think of, you can do. And these tend to be really popular, I think, because they're the most open-ended. They're the easiest to edit and kind of make whatever it is that you want. And you can download these, like these particular ones, right from Learning Grids that are preloaded with some sort of content based on whatever topic you're looking at in Learning Grids. This one was on the Great Barrier Reef. This one was on cycles of the moon. But there are also the kind of blank templates where there'll be a layout and something created where you're just populating the content based on whatever you're learning. And I've seen these used so many different ways. Collecting like knowledge at the start of a lesson, or again, of course, planning, brainstorming before we do writing. I've even seen these used as like an alternative to writing, or as like a report kind of at the end of a topic, at the end of a project, excuse me. It just depends on the particular student. This one was the activity that was within that Jack and the Beanstalk unit in Learning Grids. So this particular one was about characteristics, I think it's called. So the different characters in the story, we have the ability to put words in. Maybe we think Jack is cool. And of course, like everything in Clicker, it'll read.
Curious.
And we can also, thank you, put in pictures if we want. Now it will search for pictures associated with whatever word is in that cell, and then we can go ahead and put it in, make it larger if we want to. And then we have a sound recorder down here also. So in this case, maybe a kiddo is talking about the characters and then filling in the different cells around with characteristics of that particular character. This is just one of the pages of the characters that was in that Jack and the Beanstalk set. I just wanted to show this one. But another thing you could do is like kind of launch a lesson with a board and make kind of like an anchor chart. I made this one with one of my coworkers. And again, I kept it at the end. I could totally have done this at the beginning. The point was to show there's really anything you can do with a board. I've seen people make matching activities. I've seen people make their own retelling activities or sequencing activities. There's so many different things that you can do. Bear with me, guys. We are closing in at the end. The last thing I wanted to talk about was analytics. Now, this is kind of more like a teacher tool or an educator tool. It's a feature that kind of runs behind the scenes within the document to collect data on how work was created, on how a piece of writing came to be. Now, I have some examples here just to show you, but this is accessible here, this icon right up here. And when we click in here, it will show us how many words are written and then where they came from. So how many were added from the keyboard or from the predictor? Which sets did they come from? And on the side, it will tell you, well, I only put TH in there. It'll tell you which words came from the predictor, how many letters were typed when we used the predictor. Did we use speech in that selection? It'll do the same thing for spell check. And it will even show you the grids that were used. So we used a couple in creating this work today. It'll show you which grid it was. Anything green is a sentence set, anything yellow is a connect set. It'll follow the basic color coding. And then it'll show you what we entered from that grid if we use speech. So it'll continue collecting data as more writing is collected. If I saved this and opened it tomorrow, more data would be generated. And this little 3 dots icon, what is that called? A hamburger menu? I can never remember. It will open up another sort of drop down underneath. Now there's an option for teacher notes. If you can imagine taking the student's work and like flipping it upside down. Teacher notes just gives you a free space to write behind it. Anything worth noting that day about the student, their mood, what they were working on, anything else that you want to note. This will save again, kind of like behind the actual writing. And then all of this can be printed off as well. You can, of course, print the actual document with the student's work and their pictures and all that, but the actual analytics breakdown can be printed also so you can access it outside of Clicker. Get out of analytics. And I included just a little bit about what some of the people that have used Clicker have had to say. Just a couple of people in particular, a teacher in Maryland, and then also an OT-AT in Washington State. Just a little bit of insight about how they've been using Clicker, what they have found helpful about using it, and a lot of it has had to do with learning grids. And that's all I have for you guys on Clicker today. That's a full review of all of the tools and supports, the resources for you guys as educators and also for students. And I hope it's helped with, I know it's a lot, but I hope it's helped with showing the options. That's really what we want to do, is provide as many options as possible. And I'm actually going to transition over to Deb, who has a story and some insight about how Clicker's impacted a student that she has worked with.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Carolyn. There's so much more to that program than I've even used. I was like, oh wow, it does all of that. Okay. The student, just a success story. One of the students that I was working with the team with last year who had kind of like, he's pretty complex in terms of just his learning abilities. He was a 5th grade student who's able to comprehend everything that's read aloud to him. But he's dyslexic. He is fairly unintelligible. So we trialed a number of different speech to text devices with him. He would be able to dictate his responses to a familiar listener and get a lot of like put quite a bit down on paper, but would get really frustrated because he knew he was capable of doing the work by himself, but he wasn't capable of doing the work by himself, if that makes sense. So we ended up trying Clicker, and this is one of the he was reading a story in class, and it just helped so much to have like the keywords. We didn't use any pictures at all, but we had those keywords, and he would flip and flop back and forth between that and the keyboard. And it was the first time that his resource teacher had seen him actually concentrate on doing work for a period of time without getting super frustrated with doing it. So he was in a general ed class with resource support. But he started using this, had a lot of great success with it. We ended up going back and forth between a few different things, but they were continuing to use this, and it was really successful with him. So yeah.
That's great to hear. Thanks for sharing, Deb.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. So hopefully this, for those of you that weren't familiar with Clicker, you got some insight into what Clicker could do or could be. But for those of you that do have access to Clicker, hopefully this gave you some new ideas and strategies to use. And even those accessibility features were so cool to see. Hadn't seen all of those before. So thank you so much, Carolyn. Want to pause for just a minute, check in, see if anybody has any questions at all for Carolyn or any questions in general. Feel free to unmute and go ahead and just ask aloud, or if you'd like, you can add them to the chat as well, whatever works best for you. And you can be thinking about questions a little bit too, and we will go ahead and transition to our intentional close. So today's intentional close is maybe what is one next step do you want to try and why? So maybe if you've never heard of Clicker, you want to, or this is new, you're new to Clicker, you want to reach out to Carolyn and get maybe a little trial to see what it looks like and play around with it. Maybe if you have Clicker, you're thinking, oh my gosh, I've never tried this, or this, and maybe think about a specific student you want to try something with that you didn't know existed within Clicker, or you've never tried it before, whatever works best for you. So think about, maybe go ahead and add in the chat or go ahead and unmute yourself, and what's one next step you might want to try around Clicker. And maybe your next step is to come back next week to figure out what other wonderful features are available on the app. That works too. And as you guys are kind of thinking about your intentional close and also thinking about questions, I'm going to also put up our feedback survey. We really, really appreciate you guys being here. And we also appreciate your feedback. It really helps us know, what to feature as far as webinars and kind of helps us on how we provide any type of professional learning. And again, there will be a follow-up session on September 16th, and that's going to be mostly focusing on the Clicker app. So please feel free to join us. And if you registered for the first one, it will be the same registration. You don't have to register again. So that same link will work. And you should also have a calendar invite from us as well. Few other learning opportunities as well. Feel free to sign up for our inclusive learning circles. We have our monthly community of practice that really focuses on UDL, AT, and AAC, and we rotate topics every month. We really try to feature a specific tool, specific strategy, specific teacher doing something in a classroom, but our goal is definitely for you to walk away with something from each of these. So hopefully, if you're interested, go ahead and click the flyer and register. And those are usually from 3 to 4 p.m. And again, they're monthly as well. And then finally, please, we encourage you to follow us on social media. We update pretty regularly. And all kinds of Tip Tuesdays, Fact Fridays, all that fun stuff. So go ahead and follow us for more. And then our contact information is also located on the last slide. If you have any questions at all, feel free to reach out to us. Oh, we do have a question in the chat. Which would be the most appropriate for a trial use in the classroom?
Maria, I would say if the question is between WinMac or the apps for the iPad and the Chromebook, it would depend on the devices in use, but a trial would include access to everything, so you'd be able to pick what would work best.
Okay, thank you.
Sure thing.
Thank you guys so much.
So the learning grids, I'm sorry, I must have missed where I find the learning grids.
I can put Clicker back with. Is that okay, Emily? If I just put Clicker
go
back
for it.
up?
Yes, we're absolutely. Thank you.
Learning grids are up here. You click first this little file folder in the top left, and then it's this tab right here for learning grids.
Okay, and that would be all available with the trial, correct?
Correct. Next week, when we look at the apps, it looks slightly different on the iPad and the Chromebook, but it's the same library. You have the same access. And that's what I was saying about devices. If everyone's using Chromebooks, then that you'd be using the Chromebooks for the trial. If students are using Chromebooks and staff have MacBooks, you can choose to use both. The trial has access to everything, so you can download what you need.
Can that go into a Google Classroom? Activities
can be shared through Google Classroom, yes.
Okay. I am super old school. I used the pick symbols for writing app or disc a long time ago, and I really miss it. So this looks great.
I'm glad to hear that. I remember when we had clicker back on CDs back in the day. I was around for that. So you're not old school. You just remember how it used to be. That's all.
Thank you.
Awesome. All right. Well, we appreciate you all being here so much. Would you mind going? Yeah, I was gonna say, can you go back to the feedback survey too, in case anyone needs another minute for feedback survey? And also any other questions we are here to answer. And we just appreciate you all being here.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. I tried to make this comprehensive but quick.
Oh, it was fantastic. I feel like you covered all the things.